Let's talk PS5 Pro. We'll do some Q&A answering the biggest questions, and then we'll get into the PS5 Pro controller leak. Comment number 1. Do you think the PS5 Pro can achieve 4K at 120 Hz with ray tracing in Fortnite? That's an interesting question. Achieving 4K 60 FPS with ray tracing enabled is likely possible. However, hitting 120 FPS with ray tracing at 4K resolution is a much taller order. It really depends on how the PS5 Pro's upgraded hardware interacts with the game and how the developers optimize Fortnite for the new specs. It's a bit of a stretch, but given Fortnite's massive popularity and ongoing updates, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Maybe we'll see more about this at the Tokyo Game Show or other gaming events. It's definitely an exciting area to watch. Next question, I will paraphrase a bit. Will we see path tracing on PS5 Pro? Path tracing is indeed a step up from ray tracing in terms of visual realism, but it's also way more demanding on hardware. Here's why it's too much for even the PS5 Pro. Let's define each one just for context, but you can skip ahead using timestamps if you want. So, ray tracing. This technique simulates how light rays interact with objects to create realistic lighting effects, like reflections and shadows. It's already quite demanding because it requires a lot of computational power to calculate how light behaves in a virtual environment. Path tracing. Instead of just simulating the primary paths of light, path tracing calculates the entire journey of many light rays as they bounce around a scene. This includes all the indirect lighting, which can involve multiple bounces off various surfaces, creating incredibly realistic global illumination. Why it's too demanding? The PS5 Pro, while powerful, is still fundamentally limited by its hardware. Path tracing requires not only a high number of calculations per frame, but also needs to handle a lot of data in real time. This means you need a tremendous amount of GPU power, a ton of fast memory, and an efficient cooling system to prevent overheating, all of which push the limits of what's feasible in a consumer console. Even on high-end gaming PCs, path tracing can bring systems to their knees unless you're using the latest and most powerful GPUs. These setups often involve components that far exceed the cost and power consumption limits of what you'd find in a console. The next comment got me thinking a bit. Unless the next Horizon and God of War games really benefit from PS5 Pro hardware, like achieving true 4K at 60 FPS, I don't see the need to upgrade. I'll likely wait for the PS6 instead. Ray tracing is nice, but it's only a stopgap towards path tracing graphics. Until that technology becomes feasible for most consumers, I'll probably stick with being 1 or 2 generations behind. While graphics are nice, 60 FPS plus gameplay and a great story are more important to me. It's a valid point to consider whether the PS5 Pro offers enough of an upgrade to warrant a purchase, especially if you're aiming for true 4K at 60 FPS and advanced features like ray tracing. Sony has already indicated they're moving forward from the PS5 with an impressive lineup of first-party games. The next installments of series like God of War, Spider-Man, Horizon, and Ghost of Tsushima are expected to push the hardware to its limits, delivering not just visually stunning experiences, but also engaging and immersive gameplay. While ray tracing is a fantastic enhancement for more realistic lighting and reflections, it's true that it serves as an interim step towards even more advanced graphics technologies. However, it's worth noting that path tracing may not even be achievable on the PS6, believe it or not. This technology demands substantial computational power, which might not be feasible for consumer gaming consoles in the near future. Given this context, it makes sense to prioritize gameplay and story over the latest graphical advancements. Staying 1 or 2 generations behind is a reasonable choice if these elements matter most to you. The upcoming titles on the PS5, with or without a Pro upgrade, will still offer incredible narratives, only the resolutions will differ. Someone wrote an article with the headline, "Would you pay extra for a PS5 that could play PS1, PS2, and PS3 discs?" Asking whether people would pay extra for a PS5 that could play PS1, PS2, and PS3 discs is arguably one of the most misguided and anti-consumer questions you could come across. It's not just about the price tag, though that's a significant issue in itself. It's about the fundamental disregard for what gamers actually value and expect from their consoles. Here's why this idea misses the mark completely. 1. Gamers today are primarily interested in getting the most value from their current hardware and services. Asking them to pay extra for a feature that seems more like a retro gimmick rather than a substantial upgrade is not only out of touch, but dismissive of what gamers actually want. 2. Imagine a PC gamer being asked if they'd pay extra for an RTX 4080 if it meant compatibility with games from the early 2000s. It's a nonsensical proposition because the RTX 4080's value is in its cutting-edge performance for modern games, not in retro compatibility. Similarly, the PS5's appeal lies in its advanced hardware, new games, and features like fast load times and ray tracing, not in its ability to play old discs. 3. If gamers are faced with a choice between paying extra for a feature that many would argue should be included by default, or switching to another console or platform that offers better value, the latter might become more appealing. In the April-June quarter, Nintendo experienced a sharp decline in sales and profit, reflecting challenges with its aging Switch console. Sales dropped to 2.1 million units, a nearly 50% decrease compared to previous periods, and operating profit fell by 71% to 54.5 billion yen, $365 million, missing analysts' forecasts by over a third. Nintendo's mobile and intellectual property division also saw a steep revenue decline, down 54% to 14.7 billion yen. This downturn was partly due to the absence of a major hit, like last year's Super Mario Bros. Movie, which had significantly boosted profits. Despite these setbacks, Nintendo maintains its full-year sales forecast of 13.5 million Switch units and intends to reveal a successor console within the current financial year. The company's pipeline for the rest of the year includes new game releases like The Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom, and Mario and Luigi Brothership, as well as future projects such as a new Super Mario film scheduled for April 2026 and a live-action adaptation of The Legend of Zelda. The gaming industry overall is facing rising costs and weak pricing power, with Sony-owned Bungie recently announcing a 20% workforce reduction. Nintendo's stock dropped by 2.3% before the earnings announcement, but has seen a 7.6% increase in value year-to-date. This week, Bungie, the studio behind Halo and Destiny, announced it's cutting its workforce from 1,300 to around 850 employees, including several longtime executives. These layoffs, which affect key departments like audio and narrative, signal major changes for the studio. How will these cuts impact Bungie's future? Bungie has faced financial struggles due to its rapid expansion and ambitious projects, such as mobile Destiny versions and new franchises. The company missed its revenue targets by 45% and had to make tough decisions. Was the rapid growth unsustainable? Let's look at it from a business perspective. And for me, this was a bit expected, as we learned earlier this year that Sony is slowly moving away from live service. Here's the scoop. Sony's recent decision to downsize Bungie is part of a broader shift in the company's strategy away from live service games. Instead, Sony is refocusing on narrative-driven game experiences. This shift reflects a growing industry trend where live service models, which rely on continuous updates and in-game purchases, are becoming less central to major gaming companies' strategies. Sony appears to be pivoting back to single-player and narrative experiences, which offer more contained and immersive storytelling. This shift suggests a renewed emphasis on creating rich, story-driven games that offer complete experiences without ongoing content updates. Bungie's layoffs, including significant cuts to departments crucial for live service maintenance, reflect this strategic change. The studio's ambitious projects and rapid expansion, aimed at enhancing live service offerings, faced financial challenges and missed targets. For many developers, these changes are disheartening. The industry is seeing a shift away from the innovative and community-driven models that have been popular in recent years. Developers who specialized in live service games are facing uncertain futures as companies like Sony move toward different gaming paradigms. The gaming news has recently been pretty depressing, so I want to leave you with a cool story today. And tomorrow we'll get into the new rumors for the new DualSense controller. Sorry guys, I got a lot on my plate, but trust me, the video coming tomorrow is going to be worth it. So here is the awesome story of the day. First released on PS4 in 2020, Ghost of Tsushima has quickly risen to become a benchmark for modern open-world games. Its stunning visuals, engaging combat, and rich storytelling have not only captivated players, but also set a new bar for game design. This influence is evident as major upcoming titles like Star Wars Outlaws, Rise of the Ronin, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Assassin's Creed Mirage cite Ghost of Tsushima as a significant reference point. Star Wars Outlaws creative director Julian Guariti has openly called Ghost of Tsushima the biggest reference during their game's development, highlighting how deeply the game's aesthetics and mechanics have resonated with developers across genres. This is no small praise, considering the rich history and high standards of Star Wars games. Similarly, the developers behind Rise of the Ronin and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth have also acknowledged Tsushima's influence, indicating a broader trend of Eastern-themed games, drawing inspiration from its meticulous attention to cultural authenticity and engaging gameplay. Isn't it fascinating how the tables have turned? When Ghost of Tsushima was first released, critics and players alike noted its heavy inspiration from the Assassin's Creed series. The game's structure, with its vast open world filled with side quests and collectibles, felt reminiscent of Ubisoft's flagship franchise. Many, including myself, joked that it was the best Assassin's Creed game we'd ever played, as it seamlessly blended stealth, exploration, and combat in a way that felt fresh and engaging. Tsushima managed to strip away the bloat often found in open-world games, eliminating unnecessary grind and focusing on a refined, polished experience. It delivered a story rich with cultural detail and emotional depth, set against the beautiful backdrop of feudal Japan. Now, it's the Assassin's Creed franchise that is looking to Ghost of Tsushima for inspiration. With titles like Assassin's Creed Mirage acknowledging the influence of Tsushima, it's clear that the game has not just set a new standard, but also redefined the genre. Wow, check out these videos.